following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and it's my privilege to introduce the second episode of God's Miracle with Randy Lerch. And for this very special occasion, I have channeled the voice of the New York Yankees back in the day to introduce Randy. Now podcasting, number 47, Randy Lerch, number 47. How's that, Randy?
Man, I can't believe that. You are that. I'm not kidding you. Now I know what I've played in that stadium, so I know what the announcer sounds like. I forget his name. I know you know it, but it sounds just like it. Rob, nice going. Was that you?
Well, thank you. That was me, and his name was Bob Shepard. May he rest in peace. He was the voice of the Yankees since I was a kid. He started in '51, and he introduced DiMaggio the same way as he introduced Derek Jeter and Randy Lerch, number 47.
Yeah.
You know that's my only. I'm 73 years old, Randy. That is my only talent.
You're how old?
Imitating. I'm 73.
I can't believe that.
Well, would you believe 76? That was Don Adams. Get this on.
You got it.
All right, my friend. Hey, congratulations. The folks may not know it because it wasn't in all the papers, but you were inducted into the Sacramento Baseball Hall of Fame over the weekend. And I want you to share that experience. And I just want to tell you, the guy who presented you was a fellow Sacramentan. His name was Dusty Baker. The following day, with your good vibes, Dusty Baker was named manager of the Houston Astros. How cool is that, Randy?
As you're speaking, Ralph, it gives me goosebumps. And one little correction is it's not just the Sacramento Baseball Hall of Fame. It actually is the Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame. So what they did is they have all the who's who of Sacramento's sports there. I mean, I couldn't believe it. After the show, we were doing a meet and greet, and Debbie Myers, the great Olympian, walks up and says, "Well, welcome to the family." So, I mean, we had football stars. We had remember Bill Cartwright, the great
big center, the big center for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, so I figured you being a New Yorker, he would. Can I do that in New York? Something like that.
Hey, you could do anything you want. You're Randy Lerch. You're a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but it was just a wonderful honor. I mean, to be inducted with that. I was inducted with another baseball star, Fernando Vina. I don't know if you remember him or the folks out there do, but.
Second baseman, played a little bit with the Milwaukee Brewers and the New York Mets.
And St. Louis Cardinals. And he was a gold glove, I think, with either the Cardinals or the Brewers. And so I was inducted alongside him and Gerald Wilhite, the great tailback for the Denver Broncos, who played in the Super Bowl and was standing behind John Elway when they did the drive, the famous drive in the Super Bowl. And then I don't know if you remember, Ralph, Trevor Maddox, the football player, ESPN football analysis. He was there too. So it was Oh man, I was honored to be around those people.
What a thrill for you. I'm so proud to have you on the network. Our first Hall of Famer.
Well,
actually, not the first Hall of Famer we've interviewed, but the first who have had a steady gig as a podcaster on the Comfortable Zone Radio Network.
And you know what? You mentioned, I'm sorry, but you mentioned Dusty while I was kind of on a roll. Sorry to step on you, but he was my presenter, and I knew that I talked to Dusty quite a bit before, when I sent him my book, and so he could say, let me catch up. I hadn't seen Dusty in 20 years, and we played on the Giants together, and he's just, let me tell you something, this guy is a class human being. He's just, I couldn't wish more for Dusty, but when he presented, I knew that he had been doing some serious talks with the Houston Astros, and I said, well, have you heard from him? And he said, no, darn him, type of thing. And I said, well, I just wish him the best for you. And then when he introduced me, I said, thank you, Dusty, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, who knows? I said, as I'm speaking right now, the phone might ring, and it'll be the Astros on the other line. And lo and behold, get up the next morning, I think the next morning, and there it is, Dusty got the job. And I texted him and said, man, I just changed my favorite team because you're the manager.
Oh, that's beautiful. Were you rooting for the Giants, the team that you finished with? Let me ask you that.
I was always been a Phillies fan because I even though I played for the Giants, when I came up, we won 3 divisions and a World Series with Philadelphia, and I lived there. I lived in Cherry Hill, New Jersey area. I knew and grew up with a lot of the people there as I was just a kid of 20, and my allegiance was is to the Phillies, but I'm a Giants fan also, Ralph.
That's nice. You're a baseball fan. How about that? You see the good in baseball.
That's
so
correct.
I will ask you the question that I've asked an awful lot of people. Is baseball a microcosm of life, or is life a microcosm of baseball?
Wow. That's a great question. Let's see.
All right.
I think baseball is a microcosm of life. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a question that can't be answered incorrectly. How about that?
Okay.
So you're 1 for 1 in questions today.
Okay.
With that in mind. All right, Randy. Tell us about I want to know what it was like when you went from being a player to being a civilian for the final time, and you knew it was the final time. When you hung them up, what was the adjustment?
Well, you're on a roll today. That is another great question. It was the toughest thing that I ever could have imagined. Nothing that you can actually prepare yourself for, because you're kind of hoping things are going to keep going to where you can keep playing. But as things started falling apart for me, and I started doing some stints in the minor leagues, I kind of lost my the pizzazz for the game and the enthusiasm for it. So what happened is I finally just said, I can't do this anymore. But then trying to be prepared, because I didn't make a lot of money in the game, and I had to go get a job. And without a college education and nothing to fall back on, I got in, the reality check in a real big hurry in the real world, and that's what caused a lot of my downfall I just didn't know what to do with myself.
Okay. Did you went to work with your dad? Am I correct?
We got together, and my dad took his he retired as a fire chief in the Rancho Cordova Fire Department, and he took part of his retirement and put it into a restaurant in Placerville, California, and it just we had no experience in that at all, and the restaurant bellied, and my sister, my father, and myself went all of our separate ways with real bad feelings. So it was.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Mm-hmm. No problem. We're good now.
Oh, okay. That is nice. Because it's never too late to make up, and it's never too late to get it together with folks. What did you do after that? And the question I want to ask you: Did baseball still haunt you? Did you think about getting back in the game? Did you think about coaching? Did you think about just putting on a toe plate?
Well, I did. I was able to, and that allowed. What happened was I did think about all those things, getting into coaching and just staying involved. And that's when they came up with the senior league in St. Petersburg. And so a lot of the retired ball players that were at least 35 years old and older went to Florida, and we played ball again, and we literally I thought it was going to be just kind of a bunch of old timers getting together and just playing some, just messing around, nothing serious. But this was a league where everybody wanted to win. The winning spirit, came out in the big leaguers. I mean, they didn't have a problem drilling a guy again like the old days, and hitting the guy in the ribs if he was acting out of line. And I think we played over there for 3 months or so, and I played for St. Petersburg. Bobby Tolan, manager. Doc Ellis was the pitching coach. The great Pittsburgh.
And do you remember Peter Golenbach?
Yes, I do.
Writing. And did you read the book Forever Boys?
I did. Peter, I spent a lot of time with Peter Golenbach. Peter's a Facebook friend of mine, and he actually, I remember as we speak, sitting on the bus, getting ready for a road trip in Florida, and as Peter's putting his book together, I was his subject. I was his chapter, and I didn't know what he was going to name it, but after him interviewing me, so he named the chapter, I believe, The Haunted Hurler.
All right. Listen, I've got a story to tell you that's going to blow you away. First of all, you don't know, Peter Golenbach is a chartered member of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and he does a weekly show on this network and has for 3 years. And the reason reason there is a network is because I was just a podcaster and wanted to expand and make a network, and to make it go, I had to get a real guy with experience in this, that, and the other thing. Peter Golenbach was someone I had interviewed twice, and he was impressed by me because the favorite book he ever wrote was The Forever Boys, and it was my favorite book to read long before I ever met Peter Golenbach. I thought if I could do a show with this guy, and then if I could do a regular podcast with this guy based on that book and his experiences and what have you, we have I'd say 40 hours of archived Peter Golenbach stories on Comfortably Zoned. Anybody wants to go to YouTube, punch in Comfortably Zoned and Peter Golenbach, and you'll find a lot about those days. He loved that league. He loved covering you guys, and the book he wrote was absolutely fantastic. He identified players as human beings, and I think you'll agree that there aren't many writers who have been able to do that. And it's a thrill that you have good memories. Thrill for me that you have good memories of those days, because the league. You talk about the league. I can't describe it. It's so wonderful for players to get together like that and continue the competition, that competitive spirit that never really leaves you and needs to be channeled. Talk about your experience in that league.
Wow. First of all, that blows me away what you're telling me, Ralph, because, I mean, I'm hearing this for the first time. Before I go to tell you about the league, about Peter, he was, I just remember I was just struggling like crazy in the opportunity to come and play in the league. Tug McGraw, actually, it was right after Tug helped me through some difficult times and told me, hey, they're opening up a league. And then when I did show up there, I was actually the opening day pitcher. And when Peter, I had no idea who Peter Golenbach was, and when he asked if he could interview me, I said, well, sure. And I can't believe how kind he was. After dealing with the Philadelphia, New York, and all the main press, I was a little worried about, what I was getting myself into. And Peter was such a kind person. And after that, and I think he was there at least a month. And putting his book together, and then
Randy, he spent the entire season with you guys.
Was he there the whole season? Okay.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And,
oh wow.
Again, I'm thrilled that your memories are good ones. That's what's important. You had fun. It was a league where guys were actually having fun doing what they were doing.
The camaraderie was right back. You had asked earlier about how was it to retire from baseball, from the time you played Little League and you never quit playing baseball until your baseball career was over, and then to be able to fill that gap and go and play against the same guys that had retired. I mean, you're talking huge names like Ferguson Jenkins, and I mean,
Riley Fingers.
Riley Fingers. Yeah. So
Randy, how about this one? Randy Lerch.
Yeah. Well, that kind of shouldn't have been in the same sentence. But,
hey, let me tell you, Randy. I've been my memory isn't all that great, so I kind of looked over your record a little bit. And you were incredibly effective for long periods of time.
Yes, I was. I did my win-loss record wasn't what it could have been, Ralph, but I pitched a lot of innings. I mean, it's funny. I tease now when I'm talking to baseball fans that are watching baseball, where the starting pitchers are going 5 and 6. They've had a great game if they go 6 innings, right? But I mean,
absolutely.
There was quite a few games. No, I'd say a few games that I actually went into the 10th inning, and the scores tied, and you go into the 10th inning. And they weren't counting pitches; they're worried about your arm falling off. I guess I didn't make enough money for them to worry about me. But no,
they didn't worry about the people that were making money. the stories about managers wanting to get Mickey Mantle into the lineup when he was hurting for certain, and Mickey Mantle would tell stories. That's all right. I'm only missing an arm on this one. I'll gladly play for you today, Ralph Houck. You didn't have to be Mickey Mantle for them not to care about you. Let's put it that way. Which is another story.
Go ahead, bud.
Which is another story in baseball. Did you ever, when you were playing, did you ever feel taken advantage of a piece of meat?
Well, I did, only because, you know, the word was around that, hey, look, they're going to put you out there, and if you didn't perform, you were gone. And you knew that like you had just mentioned with Mickey Mantle, if you get hurt, they made it very crystal clear that there's always someone waiting to take your job. And so many times I went out there hurt. And, you know, you take a line drive I remember a game in Atlanta. I took a line drive off my knee. They took me to the hospital. They told me that Bob Horner hit it. Remember the great hitter for the Atlanta Braves, Bob Horner? He had a line shot off of my knee.
Of course.
And,
yes.
And they said if it had been an inch or two in one direction or the other, you would have been a cripple for the rest of your life. And so we iced it up and got on a plane, went to Pittsburgh, and I pitched in because I got knocked out. I got hurt early in the game, and I remember I was brought in the next day to get a left-hander out in Pittsburgh. I think it was John Milner I pitched against in Pittsburgh the next day. They weren't worried about my knee. Just go get somebody out. So yes, I mean, you weren't thought of as you were a piece of meat, and just go get it done and shut up.
Okay, so it's not my imagination, but a lot of players seem to have that underlying feeling of that the game really isn't a game. It's a business.
And I didn't realize that. That was my big problem is I was just a 20-year-old kid. It was the Philadelphia Phillies, and I was still in that, the minor leagues. I was minor league pitcher of the year one year, and I led the league almost in every pitching category through my 3.5 minor league year career before I got to the major leagues. And I just, when I got to the major leagues, I was still in that high school minor league zone, and I didn't realize that this stuff is serious up here, and I was still trying. I didn't take it as a business or an occupation. It was just a game to me, and boy, I look back on it now, I wish that someone had pulled me aside and said, hey, kid, you need to look at things a little different.
Okay. This has been a good show because we're getting to know you. This is our second, actually your third appearance on these airwaves, your second with the Randy Lerch Show, God's Miracle. I want next week for you to take the show in a direction that you want to take it. And I feel that I've really introduced you to our audience, and you're terrific. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's kind of you, Ralph. I've got a lot to learn from you, my friend. And we're going to learn from you. It's not going to be my voice. It's going to be your voice. What you have to learn from me is push 5-star to get it on the air, and push 5-star to get it off the air. It's a basic. Basically, podcasting is simple. And I'm a simple guy. And the simplicity of all of this is what's wonderful, that we're in a day and age where we can communicate without having to have a
commercial thing where they tell you what you can say and what you can't say. This is a venue where we can really talk from the heart and not be indebted to anybody that tells us what to say because they're paying us or this, that, and the other thing. So you'll find that this is cathartic, and like I told you, you're happy to do it, and I'm happy to do it, and that means a good deal for both teams, and that's what life should be about. Everybody does well. When you make a trade, you don't want the other person not to get screwed. You want them to do well too, so they'll trade again with you. And in a relationship, you want it to be good for both people, in a business, in a personal relationship, and in podcasting. You're happy with it, I'm happy with it. It's going to be fun, Randy.
I'm looking forward to it, Ralph. I just, again, if all of a sudden I start losing words, man, so just pick me up. That's all.
You need very little picking up, my friend. You just continue to stay healthy, and I hope everything goes well. Whoa, conference was muted for something. Randy? Uh-oh. Oh. Hello. I think I lost you, Randy. Okay, I'm going to close it out. On behalf of Randy Lerch, the show is God's Miracle with Randy Lerch. I'm Ralph Tycho of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We'll figure out the technical stuff, splice it together. Thank you for listening, everybody, and you be well. Adios.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.